How's it going, everybody? We're going to jump into this Petal Puff Sleeve Dress. It's super cute, so go ahead and keep watching. And just in case you want to purchase this dress that we make in this video, go ahead and check out the Good Bob on Etsy. Alright, so go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you're notified anytime we post a new video. Follow us on social media, and let's get into the nitty gritty. This pattern is Samantha Marie Designs Petal Dress. You're going to need some knit fabrics, your machines that you use, and maybe a little bit of patience will help. Alright, so let's get started as to what pattern pieces you are going to need. For this particular type of dress, you need 2 of these petal skirts cut on a fold. You need the ruffle, 2 of those cut on a fold. That's the bottom ruffle. You will need a front bodice, 1 main and 1 lining cut on a fold. You will need a back bodice, 1 main, 1 lining cut on a fold. You will need 2 of these short gathered sleeves. So you're going to cut it at that short sleeve line here. And they're cut on a fold. It doesn't have fold on it, but it is cut on a fold here. And then you will need 2 of the gathered sleeve cuffs. These are not cut on a fold, so it's just cut all around it, 2 pieces. All right, so here's my pieces all cut out. I am using a custom design here, and I did get it printed at Little Ray's Fabric Shop on their knit fabric. And so I have my 2 skirt pieces, my 2 ruffle pieces cut on a fold, my my main and lining pieces of the front and back bodices, my 2 sleeves cut on a fold, and then my 2 short sleeve gathering cuffs, or whatever they're called. All right, so to get started, I am going to move all of this stuff out of the way. All right, so we're gonna put the skirt right side up, 1 piece, and this other side right side down, and we're going to sew those side seams. So we're going to scoot that out of the way, and then we're going to do the bodice here. So we're going to put the main piece, the front, and the lining front, both right sides up, and then we're going to put the back pieces of the main on top of the main front bodice, and then we're going to put the back side of the lining on top of the main, or on top of the lining piece. You know what I'm saying. All right, so we're doing the shoulder seams of those. First, we're going to do the side seam of the skirt here. Just going to serge those edges up. I do like to add my little side tag for branding purposes in the side seam here on the skirt. And you can tuck your tails here if you want to. You really don't have to, because we are going to catch it in a seam. It will be more secure if you do tuck your tails, really, no matter where you do it. And I do use a knit picker from Waywalk to tuck my tails. All right, so now we're going to do the shoulder seams of the bodice here. And if you notice, I am using a different color for the lining. This is double brush poly, just to save my custom fabric since it is just the lining. All right, so once you get those shoulder seams done, we are going to put the main piece right side up, the lining piece right side down, and we're going to match up the neckline, make sure the lower neckline's in the back and the higher neckline's in the front, and you're going to sew around. So this is how you do the neckline here. And you're just going to sew around that neckline. And then if you can see my little helper to the right there, that's Lowen, the littlest baby. You might be able to hear them in the background right now as well. They are crazy. That's Sire and Lowen in the background being crazy. All right, so yeah, you just sew in a circle here for the neckline. Overlap and tuck your tail. And then that's the neckline. You're going to flip the piece like this, and we're not going to enclose the sleeves, so we're not going to do like a burrito roll or anything right now. There is a way to do it, but I really don't care to do it right now, because we're adding the gathered sleeves to the arm side, so that's what we're going to do next. We're going to gather the sleeves up. So grab your sleeves, and then if you paid attention when you were cutting your pieces, you would have made these little notches. If you didn't, go grab that pattern piece and make your notches now. So that's where you're going to gather. I like to do a bottom, middle, and top middle piece here too as well to match my pieces up, but you're going to gather from the notch all the way to the other notch. So let's go over to the sewing machine, go ahead and lengthen the straight stitch to the longest it'll go. And then about a quarter or a half inch from the edge, just do a straight stitch down. Don't back stitch at all. And just keep your tails long. That's what it looks like from notch to notch. Do that with both sleeves. And again, don't back stitch. You're just wanting a straight stitch so that you can pull those. You can do more than one row as well. It just depends on your preference. I just do one here. I find it works just fine. And again, over there to the left is Lowen again. He wanted to help Mama, so. All right, so now we're gonna gather this to fit. So that's why I like to do my little notch in the middle, because it helps me. So you're just gonna keep pulling until you get it to the preference you want it to. There's other ways to gather as well. This is just what I'm showing you. I find it works best for me. But if you have another preference to gathering, or you want to find a different way to gather, go ahead and check some other videos out. I gather with elastic sometimes. I gather with my serger sometimes. It really just depends on the mood I'm in. But yeah, so you just kind of pull one side of the thread. I like to just kind of smush it all in the middle. And the way I do it is I like to kind of over gather, and then I'll pull them apart to spread them as I need. I find that's kind of the easiest way for me. Again, preference, total preference. But you're going to try to make this fit the arm side here. So all the bunches are kind of like at the shoulder. And so we're going to do it right sides together here. And I'm going to find my little point. First, I'm going to, I like to tie my ends when I'm gathering. Again, personal preference. You don't have to do this. I find it helps them not to move. You can clip them. You can do whatever you want to do. I just like to tie my ends off. But I'm going to mark my little notch here and line it up with the shoulder seam. And then you are going to, you can use as many clips as you want, as many pins, however you want to do it. Again, I'm tying this end off here just to kind of keep my gathers from moving. I mean, you can use basting stitches as well if you want to do that to keep your stuff from moving. I just hate removing stitches, so I try not to do any unnecessary. So you're going to sew this arm side here. When you're doing this, you are going to catch the main, lining, and sleeve. So make sure you're catching all of that. Slow and steady wins the race here. Just to catch all those gathers, make sure everything's nice and proper. I'm sorry for my kids in the background. Well, I'm not really sorry. I just know that they're kind of crazy. So that's what it looks like when you get it all done. So you repeat this with sleeve number 2. Wow, so fast. I wish it was that fast. So now we're going to gather the, you could have totally done this also before you put the sleeve on, but now you're going to gather the other end of the sleeve. I don't know why my brain's blanking. And this time I'm going to use my serger. So I'm going to turn my blade off. I'm going to make the stitch width as wide as it'll go. And I'm turning my yellow knob up to, like, let's say 8. I think is what I did. You could probably go higher than that. But yeah. Again, you want your tail to be kind of long because you want a little bit of wiggle room. All right, and if you're doing it with your serger, like I said earlier, I try to over gather. If you're doing it with your serger, you may want to try to under gather because you don't really have as much thread wiggle room. And so now we're adding the cuff here. So I just folded it wrong sides together, and I am putting it down like this. And then you serge the edge of the cuff here. So remember to change your settings back if you change them to gather. And now we're just sewing the edge of that cuff, the 2 raw edges of the cuff, and the 1 raw edge of the gathered sleeve end. And that's what it looks like. And you may need to remove some threads if you have any exposed, like the gathering threads. Now we're just going to do the side seams. So you're going to do main to main. Try to match up your seams as best as possible. And then you do the other side the exact same way. And I'm just going to serge them and tuck my tails on both ends. So just go over to your serger. Same settings I always use, just slow and steady, trying to keep those seams nested so it makes a pretty garment on the inside. And then the seam of the sleeve arm side here, if you want to, what's the word? Omit any sensory issues, you can absolutely top stitch that little seam down in the arm side, the shoulder, armpit area. It might cause some irritation, so you can definitely top stitch that down. You can top stitch all of your seams down, really, if you want to make it super professional. But it's totally optional. But it is a very good added measure for anyone with sensory issues. I am going to go ahead and top stitch the sleeve down. Just, I feel like it again makes a, you know, prim and proper, polished, professional, whatever. Totally preference. But yeah, the dress is beautiful regardless. So I'm just top stitching with my cover stitch here. If you want to learn how to use this machine more in detail, I do have a video on the channel, so go ahead and check that out. This is the bodice. So now you have finished the beautiful bodice. This actually would be super cute as a swim top, by the way, if you use some swim fabric. So just throwing that out there. You can like band it, put a band on the bottom to band it and finish it. Finish that bottom bodice there. I think that would be really cute. Cute idea. If you do that, tag me. I want to see it. Or tag Recaptured Values, tag whatever. I want to see it. Or Teach It Tuesday. I don't tag something. That'd be super cool. All right, so that's the bodice. It's very, very cute. And now we are going to, I'm going to choose another way to gather. And I'm going to gather with elastic to do the skirt to the bodice. So how I do that, I'm using a 1/4 inch knit elastic. Totally optional. You don't have to do this. You can gather the exact same way we did. I'm measuring the bodice. I am omitting about 2 inches just because the elastic does stretch when you're doing this. And I don't want the waist to be saggy. So I'm doing it a little bit smaller than the opening. And I did just close the loop with my sewing machine, and then I 1/4ed the edges. I'm also 1/4ing the skirt here, and then I am matching up my points. So you will have 4 points here on your elastic. And then you're going to go over to your sewing machine. I do like to do a back stitch when I first start. Lengthen that as long as it'll go, like the straight stitch again, and then pull your elastic taut onto the fabric. If your elastic doesn't quite stretch to the next point, I like to pull the elastic and then gather the fabric a little bit as I go to make it the elastic the right length, if you know what I'm saying. So that it actually goes to the point. Sometimes the elastic's not stretchy enough, but you know, you got to make it work. But then when you let go of the elastic, it bunches up the garment and gathers it for you. So that's the whole point. I find this method works. Some people find, again, that it makes the seam wavy when they serge this on. The best things that I've found to avoid that is to, like I said, make your elastic a tad bit shorter than the bodice and stretch as best as you can. And then when you're actually attaching the elastic, so now we're going to match up the points. So you have to do your side seams, and then you do the front and back points. I'm 1/4ing my bodice, and then I make sure the back of the skirt is with the back of the neckline, right? So the neckline is lower in the back and higher in the front. So make sure you're paying attention to that. All right, so now we're going to serge. And this is the place where I find that some people, you're wanting to serge the edge and cut off that 1/4 inch, right? So you're not cutting the elastic. You're sewing right onto the elastic. And I kind of pull from the back end to pull it through, because if it sits too long under this thread, in my opinion, that I feel like is what's causing the waviness. So see this hand on the back, I'm pulling the garment through, not too fast, but faster, and not letting it just sit in those feed dogs like it normally kind of does. Because then it gets really bulky and it makes it kind of wavy, you know? So I'm just cutting that 1/4 inch off the edge right onto the elastic. You're not cutting any of the elastic. Now we've got that done, and we need to add the beautiful gather. Of course, you can absolutely just hem the dress here if you don't want to add the gather. The gather is just an extra step. We are going to sew the short ends right sides together to make a big loop. And then you're going to gather just like I did on the sewing machine earlier. I like to do it one side. Since it was two sides here, we have two side seams. I like to do straight stitches on one side of the gather and then straight stitches on the back side of the gather, so that I can keep my gathers and my side seams together. But yeah, so you're going to attach this just like this right here. I did gather kind of off screen just to make this video a tiny bit shorter. For this one, I did use the sewing machine again, tried and true method there. Again, like I said, you can use 2 rows of straight stitch, basting stitches, gathering stitches, whatever you want to call them. It is possible though that you will have to remove them depending on how big your seam is when you attach them to the garment. But it's not really hard, it's just a little bit more tedious. So for this step, I am adding more clips than I probably ever have used in my entire life, which is not many. I typically don't use very many. But more for me. And you're just doing this around the edge here. And so I did one side of the dress, made sure the gathers were perfect. And then you do the other side. Of course, I did off screen. And then you just serge that puppy on. Slow and steady again. You're just making sure that raw edge of the gathered ruffle. And then I did hem the ruffle too off screen. Sorry, by the way. You want to hem it. You can do a lettuce hem, rolled hem, however you want to do it. I used my cover stitch just to hem it 1/4 inch. But yeah, so you're putting it right sides together like this and serging it on raw edge of the bottom of the dress and raw edge of that gather. Just to serge in. And then once you get this part done, you can choose to top stitch, which is what I did. I don't think I did it on camera. I don't remember. But slow and steady, just remove your clips as you go. But this one is super cute to do some combo fabric. You can do lace. I did, obviously the one with the cover photo, I did with lace on the sleeves. Super cute. It does have a long sleeve version as well. So in the winter time, you can do a long sleeve. This dress can be formal. You can add a petty skirt to make it super flowy. You can do a circle skirt if you want to even. Some people have done this with the belladonna. But yeah, super cute. This is how it looks all finished up. And remember, if you want to purchase this dress right here, you can actually go to our Etsy shop, The Good Mob on Etsy, and purchase it from us. So yeah, super cute. Would love for you to go over there and check it out. We do have some adult items as well. So like shirts and everything, faith-based items, super great. Love it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys love this video and make some really cute things for your kids or for your shop. And I hope to see you guys next week. Bye.